Millionaire finds new life after a single mom's shocking care uncovers a secret miracle. Daniel Everett woke up to blaring alarms and blinding white lights. Head throbbed like a hammer pounding steel. Where was he? The sterile smell of antiseptic filled his lungs. Sharp, cold. He blinked, struggling to focus, fingers trembling as they brushed against the hospital bed rails. The chaos was nothing like his fast life. The yachts, endless boardroom battles, flashing cameras, and champagne toasts. Now, silence pressed down on him, broken only by distant footsteps and muffled voices. His world had shattered in a heartbeat. Then she appeared, Maya, a woman with tired eyes but an iron will. She moved quickly, gracefully, carrying a sleepy toddler in one arm while adjusting an IV drip with the other. Her name tag said caregiver. There was something different about her, something that immediately unsettled Daniel, yet pulled him in. She smiled softly, but it didn't reach all the way up, like she was hiding battles of her own beneath that warm exterior. Each day, Daniel watched Maya juggle impossible tasks, calming screaming kids, soothing broken spirits, and somehow finding moments of kindness. She had no fancy degrees or money, just grit and heart. But beneath it all, a mysterious secret lingered. One evening, as the sun dipped low and shadows sprawled through the rehab center, Maya spoke quietly about a miracle, one linked to Daniel's late mother. Daniel's breath caught. How could this woman possibly know about that? His chest tightened with a mix of hope and fear. Was this just coincidence or something bigger? Little by little, Daniel felt his walls cracking. The rush, power, and money that once ruled his life seemed distant, hollow. Maya's presence challenged everything. Her quiet strength was magnetic, but beneath that was a flicker of fear. Fear that telling him the truth could tear apart the someone ruthless, waiting to drag Daniel back down. Someone who wanted his collapse, his ruin. Daniel's thoughts raced. Could he trust Maya? Could he accept this miracle without losing everything? His hands clenched the sheets, part dread, part desperate yearning. Meanwhile, Maya held her secret close, every smile laced with a warning. Betrayal had stained her past, and now love stood on a knife's edge. The rehab center felt like a battlefield, filled with silent wars and whispered threats. But in the quietest moments, hope sparked, fragile as a flame in the night. When the shocking truth about that miracle came crashing down, it sent ripples across both their lives, a revelation so wild it could change everything. And suddenly, Daniel realized the stakes weren't just survival or recovery. It was about the futures they dared to dream, and whether they were willing to fight for a chance at something real. One breath, one secret, one choice. What will they risk for love, redemption, and the chance to start over? Hey, before you continue with this incredible story, I have an important warning for you. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. It helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love meeting all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes a difference. Let's interact. Daniel's heart raced in his chest, a wild drumbeat that drowned out everything else. Could this miracle Maya spoke of really change his life? He searched her eyes, looking for a clue, but all he found was an unsettling mix of fear and hope. What was the secret she was holding tight? The moment felt electric, charged with the weight of unspoken truths. As they stood on the edge of revealing something monumental, the orderly burst into the room with frantic urgency. "We need you both," he shouted, eyes wide and breathless. "It's an emergency." Daniel's stomach dropped. "What's happening?" he demanded, adrenaline flooding his veins. "There's been an accident in the playroom. A child. It's bad," the orderly stammered. Before he knew it, Maya was already moving, instinctively following the chaos. She didn't look back, her worry for the child far deeper than her fear. Daniel stayed frozen for a moment, torn between compassion for the sick child and the desperate need to understand the mystery surrounding Maya. He quickly followed her down the tight hallway, the clinical walls closing in around them. Nurses and doctors rushed past, their faces masks of focus and urgency. Daniel's gut twisted with anxiety for the unknown child, but a nagging feeling in his chest begged him to stay with Maya. They reached the playroom, chaos unfolding before them. Shouting, tears, frantic movements. It was a storm. A little boy lay on the floor, pale and motionless. The sight hit Daniel like a punch. His breathing faltered. He didn't know this child, yet fear gripped him. He wanted to turn away, but felt rooted in place. Maya was there in an instant, her hands steady, her voice calm as she spoke to the frightened children. "It's okay, help is coming." But suddenly, he noticed something strange. A flicker of recognition in her eyes as she knelt beside the boy. It was a look he knew too well, one of deep personal connection. "Maya," he whispered, trying to comprehend. "Do you know him?" She hesitated, her hands trembling. "Daniel, I need you to trust me." Before he could respond, the boy stirred, his eyes fluttering open. And that's when Daniel felt the ground shift beneath him. The boy's gaze locked onto Maya's, a bond that sent shivers down Daniel's spine. "Mom?" the boy croaked. Shock rippled through the crowd. Daniel's mind raced. Could this child be Maya's? But that wasn't the real twist. Maya's expression shifted from fear to something darker, more complex. A name escaped her lips, an admission that shattered Daniel's understanding. "Lucas," she whispered, "I thought I lost you." The air thickened with disbelief. Daniel blinked, confused. Hadn't she said she was a caregiver? He was reeling. This was no ordinary connection. This was something deeper, something sacred. The room around him faded into a blur. Sound reduced to muffled chaos. Maya, you're his mother? His voice quaked, tremors of betrayal mixed with an unfamiliar realization. But as Maya's eyes met his, a sense of dread washed over him. She wouldn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on Lucas, who was now sitting up, confusion painting his small face. Daniel felt the walls closing in. Had he been drawn to her strength, only to be ensnared in a web of secrets? Suddenly, the lights flickered. The air grew heavy. A shadow loomed behind Daniel, a sense of foreboding creeping in. The comforting idea of rebuilding his life felt impossibly far away now. Someone or something, he could sense it, was waiting to pull him back into the darkness. The question lingered, thick and suffocating. What other secrets were hidden in the shadows? What cost would come next? A fire ignited in him, pushing Daniel closer to the truth, a truth that threatened to break them all wide open. Would they survive the fallout together? Daniel stood frozen, heart racing, as the realization washed over him like a cold wave. Maya was Lucas's mother. The room spun, the chaos around him blurring into insignificance. He wanted to scream, "Lucas, sweetheart, you're safe," she whispered, hands trembling as she brushed the boy's damp hair away from his forehead. Confusion flickered in his eyes, muddled as he fought to grasp the gravity of the moment. Daniel wanted to dive deeper, searching for the truth behind their bond. But a sudden noise shattered his concentration. "She's not who you think she is," a voice yelled from the back of the crowd. The air thickened with shock, and all eyes turned toward a man who pushed through, face crimson and wild. Daniel recognized him, the man from the gala, the one who never left Daniel's side when the checks were signed. "Richard." "Richard, what do you—" Daniel began, but Richard cut him off. "Maya's a fraud. Lucas was taken from her for a reason." His voice sliced through the tension, and Daniel's heart sank. The words echoed like an alarm bell, crackling through the air. A gasp arose from the onlookers. Maya's face froze, a mask of terror. "Stop!" she yelled, her voice breaking, eyes darting between the boy and the man who was now revealing unfathomable truths. "You can't do this here!" Daniel stepped closer to her, instincts screaming to protect her, but fear gnawed at his gut. What if Richard was right? What if there was a darker side to all this? He felt torn, love for Maya clashing with the need to shield Lucas. "Let me tell you what's really going on," Richard sneered. "Maya was accused of neglect, and they didn't just take the boy away, they took everything from her. They said she was unfit to be a mother, and now she's pretending to play the part while she hides from the truth." A wave of nausea hit Daniel. Each word was a slap, but mixed in with growing anger. Was this a desperate bid to reclaim power? Or was it genuine concern? The crowd's whispers ricocheted, doubt creeping in as eyes shifted to Maya, waiting for her to defend herself. "Maya, is this true?" The question hung heavy, laden with implications. For the briefest moment, her steel facade cracked. "I made mistakes," she admitted, breath trembling, "but I've fought every day to be with him. I love Lucas." Richard laughed, but it was devoid of humor. And what happens when someone finds out the truth? You're not fit to take care of him. A strange calmness swept over Daniel. This wasn't just a revelation. It was a storm, one that could obliterate everything he had begun to believe. Then, before he could process it, a loud crash echoed from the hallway. A figure rushed into the room, frantic and desperate. "Maya!" the woman screamed. "They found him! He's back! You have to come!" Time jolted to a halt. Daniel's heart raced as confusion and rage collided. Who was this woman? What did she mean? Maya's eyes widened, and suddenly the reality of the situation shifted again. "Not now!" she cried, casting a pleading look at Daniel that spoke volumes. But fear transformed into determination. An answer, a truth loomed just beyond reach. "What's going on?" Daniel demanded, anger flaring once again. This was no longer just about him and Maya. This was deeper, darker. The woman turned to Daniel, her expression shifting from urgency to dread. "They have your mother's diary. She wrote everything, all the secrets. A truth, like an avalanche, was about to bury them all. Now everything Daniel had believed was on the verge of collapsing. What did his mother know? What secrets hid among the pages? He felt a tightening in his chest, the shadows shifting in ways he couldn't anticipate. And as Maya's face paled, Daniel realized that their lives were about to change forever. The room seemed to close in on Daniel, anxiety swirling like a fog. The frantic woman's words echoed in his mind, but it was Maya's face, paled with terror, that burned into his memory. "They found him," rang like a bell, reverberating through his thoughts. Who was back? "What do you mean?" Daniel's voice cracked, desperation creeping in as he turned to the newcomer. "Who are you?" The woman dismissed him with a swift wave of her hand. "Now isn't the time," she snapped, her eyes darting around. "Maya, we need to go. They have the diary. It's everything." "What diary?" Daniel pressed, feeling like he was losing ground. All around them, people murmured, confusion painting their faces. The tension was palpable, a taut wire ready to snap. "Shut up!" Maya barked, but her voice betrayed her fear. She stepped toward the woman, urgency etched on her features. "You shouldn't have come here. If they see you—" "I don't care anymore. You think hiding will save you?" The woman's voice trembled, and Daniel felt a chill. He grasped the gravity of what was happening, terrified of what he might uncover. Suddenly, the hospital's emergency alarms blared, drowning out their frantic conversation. Red lights pulsated, throwing eerie shadows across their faces. Panic cracked all around as staff rushed to evacuate, and Daniel felt his heart drop. "A fire? An outbreak?" "Lucas!" Maya yelled, eyes wide. But the room swirled. Daniel saw her dart toward the boy, who was still dazed on the floor. But then something took over his instincts. "Maya, come with me!" Daniel grabbed her arm, the urge to protect surging. "We can't stay here!" As they moved toward the door, Richard called out, "You won't escape that easily!" And then, before he could fully process it, The building shook. A deafening explosion rocked the hall. Time halted. Graffiti of light flickered through the emergency alarms, and dust rained down like confetti. Maya staggered, breathless, clutching Lucas. "No! We have to go! Now!" But Daniel couldn't move. The haze of shock wrapped around him. The chaos, that voice, Richard's accusations, the diary, everything crashed together like a tidal wave, each revelation pulling him deeper. From amidst the chaos, a familiar face pushed through the crowd. Face white as a ghost. It was a man Daniel hadn't seen in years, his own estranged father, whose silhouette was framed in the mist. "Daniel!" came the hoarse gasp, filled with urgency and fear. "What are you doing here?" Daniel could hardly breathe, disbelief pinching at his chest. "Where's your mother's diary?" His father's eyes blazed with a manic desperation. "You need to burn it. It holds everything." Daniel stood dumbfounded. "What? You're the one who abandoned us." Pain mingled with anger, but the fire in his father's eyes made him falter. "Don't you see? They're coming for you and Maya, for Lucas, the diary. There's a reason they took it. Your mother. She's not who you think she is." The room vibrated with chaos. Those words felt like a punch to the gut. Daniel felt the memories of his mother flood back, the warmth of their home torn apart as he dwelt on his father's shocks. "What do you mean? What did she do?" "Everything. She had a past you don't know, one you need to erase. Trust me." With the building in uproar, the world felt like it was spinning out of control. Daniel looked at Maya, panic etched on her face, then back to Lucas, confusion swirling in the boy's eyes. What other truths lay buried beneath the flames of the past? How deep did the betrayal run? What other lies had shaped his world? And as despair clawed at him, the ground beneath them shuddered once more, a rumbling reminder that everything was about to collapse. In that moment, Daniel knew nothing would ever be the same again. Would the truth set them free, or would it tear them apart? The room seemed to close in on Daniel, anxiety swirling like a fog. The frantic woman's words echoed in his mind, but it was Maya's face, paled with terror, that burned into his memory. "They found him," rang like a bell, reverberating through his thoughts. Who was back? "What do you mean?" Daniel's voice cracked, desperation creeping in as he turned to the newcomer. "Who are you?" The woman dismissed him with a swift wave of her hand. "Now isn't the time," she snapped, her eyes darting around. "Maya, we need to go. They have the diary. It's everything." "What diary?" Daniel pressed, feeling like he was losing ground. All around them, people murmured, confusion painting their faces. The tension was palpable, a taut wire ready to snap. "Shut up!" Maya barked, but her voice betrayed her fear. She stepped toward the woman, urgency etched on her features. "You shouldn't have come here. If they see you—" "I don't care anymore. You think hiding will save you?" The woman's voice trembled, and Daniel felt a chill. He understood the gravity of what was happening, terrified of what he might uncover. Suddenly, the hospital's emergency alarms blared, drowning out their frantic conversation. Red lights pulsated, throwing eerie shadows across their faces. Panic cracked all around as staff rushed to evacuate, and Daniel felt his heart drop. A fire? An outbreak? "Lucas!" Maya yelled, eyes wide, but the room swirled. Daniel saw her dart toward the boy, who was still dazed on the floor. But then, something took over his instincts. "Maya, come with me!" Daniel grabbed her arm, the urge to protect her surging. "We can't stay here." As they moved toward the door, Richard called out, "You won't escape that easily!" Then, before he could fully process it, the building shook. A deafening explosion rocked the hall. Time halted. Graffiti of light flickered through the emergency alarms. Only shadows melting into darkness. And dust rained down like confetti. Maya staggered, breathless, clutching Lucas. "No, we have to go. Now!" But Daniel couldn't move. A haze of shock wrapped around him. The chaos, that voice, Richard's accusations, the diary, everything crashed together like a tidal wave, pulling him deeper. From amidst the chaos, a familiar face pushed through the crowd, face white as a ghost. It was a man Daniel hadn't seen in years, his own estranged father, whose silhouette was framed in the mist. "Daniel!" came the hoarse gasp, filled with urgency and fear. "What are you doing here?" Daniel could hardly breathe, disbelief pinching at his chest. "Where's your mother's diary?" His father's eyes blazed with a manic desperation. "You need to burn it. It holds everything." Daniel stood dumbfounded. "What? You're the one who abandoned us!" Pain mingled with anger, but the fire in his father's eyes made him falter. "Don't you see? They're coming for you and Maya, for Lucas. The diary, there's a reason they took it. Your mother, she's not who you think she is." The room vibrated with chaos. Those words felt like a punch to the gut. Daniel felt the memories of his mother flood back, the warmth of their home torn apart as he dwelt on his father's shocks. "What do you mean? What did she do?" "Everything. She had a past you don't know, one you need to erase. Trust me." With the building in uproar, the world felt like it was spinning out of control. Daniel looked at Maya, panic etched on her face. Then back to Lucas, confusion swirling in the boy's eyes. What other truths lie buried beneath the flames of the past? How deep does the betrayal run? What other lies have shaped my world? A chilling scream shattered his thoughts. From the hallway, a figure emerged, staggering through the dust. A man with wild eyes and a blood-stained shirt. "Help! It's happening! They're here!" Daniel's heart dropped. "Who's here?" The man fell to his knees, gasping for breath, and pointed shakily behind him. "They've come for them. They'll take them all." In that instant, the emergency alarms grew louder, but so did a chorus of other sounds. Sirens, shouting, chaos rising like a storm. Everything was unsteady, the future spinning out of control. Before he could process the implications, the lights flickered and exploded into darkness. A sharp chill rushed through the air, and in the pitch blackness, a murmured chant echoed from the shadows. "Maya, Maya." It sent a spike of fear straight through Daniel's heart. Then, the lights flickered back on, and there stood a group of figures clad in uniforms, faces hidden by dark masks. They swept into the room with ruthless precision, eyes locked on Maya. "Where is the child?" one demanded, voice cold as ice. Maya's eyes widened in terror, and she instinctively pulled Lucas closer. "No, stay back!" All eyes turned toward the child, and Daniel felt his world fracture. The truth crashed into him like a wave. What was happening? Suddenly, everything about Maya, her connection to Lucas, the diary, even her past, seemed to spiral into an unimaginable nightmare. "Get down!" Daniel shouted, taking a step forward, heart pounding, desperate to shield them. But before he could reach them, Maya turned her back to him, the little boy clutched tightly in her arms. "They're here for him. I can't let him go." And just like that, the reality shifted beneath his feet. Connection turned to distraught protection, silence thickening in the aftermath. In that decisive moment, as the tension wrapped around them like a vice, Daniel's heart raced with a dawning understanding. There was more to the story, something that could change everything he thought he knew. What else lay hidden in the shadows? What price had Maya paid for the boy? The walls echoed with echoes of past secrets, whispers of betrayal, and an unimaginable truth that now beckoned from the darkness. Would they make it out, or was this the beginning of their end? Daniel's heart raced as the masked figures pressed closer. The air crackled with static tension, the chaos swelling like a wave about to crash. He could feel Maya's fear radiating off her as she shielded Lucas, eyes darting to the men in uniforms. The world narrowed, the pounding sirens fading into a dull roar around him. "Where is the child?" one of the figures repeated, voice cold and unyielding. "Stay back!" Daniel shouted, inching forward, prepared to fight if necessary. But a sudden, piercing scream echoed from deeper within the hospital, jarring everyone. It was blood-curdling, filled with anguish. That single sound sent a ripple of unease through the crowd. "Maya!" Lucas whimpered in her arms, confusion darkening his young features. Then, like time unlocked, another figure emerged from the shadows, pushing past the police officers. It was a woman, wild-eyed and frantic, her clothes torn and stained. She strode straight toward them, unmistakable recognition alight in her gaze. "Maya, it's me. You have to remember me," the woman cried out, frantic desperation lacing her voice. A sudden pause enveloped the room. Time felt like it held its breath. Maya's expression shifted from terror to something sharper, something raw. "Tina?" Her voice was almost a whisper, full of disbelief. "Yes, it's me. I came to warn you, but you have to listen." Daniel felt a mix of confusion and protectiveness. Who was this Tina? The mask of panic was lifting from Maya's face, replaced by shock. "Warning about what? Who are these people?" Maya demanded, her grip tightening around Lucas. "They're not just here for the boy," Tina hurried out, her breath shaky. "They're involved in everything. Your mother, she was protecting you. The diary, it's worse than you think. They can't find it. Daniel felt as if he were being thrust into a whirlwind of secrets. Anxiety bubbled in his throat. What do you mean, everything? Who are you? Shh. Tina didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her pocket, pulling out a crumpled, faded photograph. You need to see this. She held it up for all to see, and gasps erupted through the crowd. The picture was of a young woman with striking features. A woman he had never met, but had seen in old family photographs. His mother. Next to her was a man, familiar from old memories. His father. But beside them, looking uncomfortably at home, was the very woman standing in front of him now. What the hell? Daniel stepped back, mind racing. You knew my mother? Yes, I'm your aunt, Daniel. Tina's voice trembled, desperation tinged with clarity. I tried to keep you safe from this. All of it. Shock settled over Daniel, thick as fog. Aunt, but you, how? Memories surged, fragments of conversations he never fully understood. He felt his foundation shake. Everything he thought he knew suddenly felt like a mirage. Maya's expression flickered back and forth, a storm of emotions battling within her. But why did you leave? Why didn't you come back? Tina shook her head, pained. I tried to come for Lucas. Your mother knew. She knew this day would come. Thereafter the diary, because it reveals everything, the truth about our family. The officers moved closer, tension thickening. Daniel's mind reeled. What truth? What are you talking about? The truth that could tear your family apart, Tina cried, glancing toward the officers, just as they lunged forward. Before anyone could react, one of the masked figures shouted, Get the child! In that instant, chaos erupted. Daniel instinctively shoved Maya and Lucas behind him. Adrenaline surging, the air filled with screams, shouts, and the shrill sirens wailing even louder. Then, in a swift motion, the building shook once again. But this time, it wasn't just an explosion or a false alarm. A series of gunshots rang out, echoing through the walls, and Daniel's heart dropped. Fear punctured the air. What had just happened? Who were these people really? And what devastating truth lay hidden within that diary, ready to erupt like a volcano? At that moment, as everyone fell into chaos, Daniel realized nothing could ever be the same again. Secrets had breached the surface, and the real fight for survival was just beginning. The room erupted into chaos. Daniel's instincts kicked in as he pushed forward, ready to stand between Maya and the armed figures. The sirens blared, loud and relentless, drowning out his thoughts. Tension hung in the air, palpable, suffocating. Maya, we have to move, he shouted. But she was locked in a stare with Tina, shock flashing across her features. They'll take him. Maya's voice trembled, desperation leaking into her words. With a powerful force, one of the officers lunged, reaching for Lucas. But Daniel leaped forward, throwing an arm around Maya, pulling her and the boy out of harm's way. No! He yelled. Then everything shifted. A loud bang echoed, and the lights flickered out. Darkness swallowed them whole. The sounds of chaos morphed into confused murmurs, punctuated by frantic breaths. In that pitch-black void, Daniel felt the weight of uncertainty press down on him. "Maya!" he called, his voice strained, searching for her hand. "Where are you? Are you okay?" "I'm here," she whispered back, anxiety threading through her tone. "Lucas!" But before she could finish, a flicker of light returned, illuminating the chaos. There, in the center of the room, stood Richard, eyes wide with panic, and clenched in his hand was a small black object. "It's here," he shouted, his voice carrying urgency. Daniel squinted, confusion curling in his gut. "What do you mean, it's here? What's going on?" Richard didn't answer. Suddenly, he pointed the object toward Maya, and without warning, a bright beam shot out. A blinding flash filled the space, and Daniel shielded his eyes, heart racing. "Stay away from her," Daniel roared, feeling anger fuel his desperation. As the light dimmed, he caught a glimpse of Maya's face, confusion and revelation mixed in her features. But then something wild happened. The air crackled, and the ground beneath them trembled. Daniel's breath caught as he witnessed a transformation. Richard's form flickered, almost as if he were a hologram. The confusion in the room spiraled into horror. "What have you done?" he yelled, panic seeping into his words. Tina gasped. "This can't be happening. We didn't think it would activate here." But before anyone could process it, the light intensified, flooding the room with warmth and brightness. In that moment, Daniel staggered back, grappling with fear and disbelief. "Richard, you—" Maya's voice broke, and Daniel turned wide-eyed as she stepped forward, an almost entranced look in her eyes. "You're not who you say you are!" As if plucked from a dream, Richard's form shifted again, revealing flashes of memories, landscapes, and faces. Daniel felt dizzy, breathless. "What's happening?" With a sudden force, Richard collapsed, grasping at his chest. The shimmer surrounding him pulsed, and the energy unfurled like a storm, revealing what lay within. "No, no, it can't be!" Maya's voice trembled, tears brimming in her eyes. "I'm not just a caregiver," Richard whispered, voice cracking, revealing a hint of something deeper, something impossible. "I'm here for Lucas. I'm not from here. I'm his protector." A chill ran down Daniel's spine. "Protector? What do you mean?" He could feel the room's pulse quickening, fear wrapping around his heart. "Maya, it's time you knew," Richard gasped, every word layered with gravity. "Lucas isn't just a boy. He's part of something much bigger than us all." Light erupted around them again, threatening to engulf everything. Daniel, Maya, and Lucas were pulled into a whirlwind of secrets and truths unraveling. Daniel's mind raced. Everything he thought he knew teetered on the edge. "Who are you really?" he shouted, desperation lacing every syllable. But as the light enveloped them, the truth slipped the grasp of reality, leaving only shattered pieces of trust behind. What would happen when the storm settled? What truths waited to be uncovered? And who would emerge on the other side? The light wrapped around them like a living thing, pulsating with an intensity that shimmered between reality and chaos. Daniel felt every heartbeat in the air, each pulse crackling with uncertainty. Richard stood there, but it wasn't just Richard anymore. Something else hovered under the surface, something undeniably more powerful. Lucas isn't just a boy. The words had left Daniel's lips, but now they felt strung to the heaviness descending upon them. The air thickened as Maya's gaze darted between Richard and Tina, confusion and desperation battling in her eyes. Then it happened. A sudden blast of light erupted in a blinding flash. Daniel instinctively shielded his face, heart pounding in his chest. But as the brilliance faded, the atmosphere shifted. The officers, the chaos, all of it began to dissolve like sand slipping through fingers. "What's going on?" he shouted over the wailing sirens that rose in volume, drowning everything else out. Then a strange sound broke through, a hum that vibrated beneath the surface, low and unsettling. Suddenly, a figure materialized out of thin air. It coalesced from the shimmering light, a tall man with sharp features and eyes that glowed with an otherworldly knowledge. The crowd gasped. The hospital staff froze, caught between disbelief and terror. "Maya, it's time to remember." In a second, he turned to Lucas, kneeling before the child, who seemed completely at ease within this chaos. "You are the key." Daniel felt a surge of dread. Who was this man? What key? "Enough!" Richard shouted, his whole demeanor shifting like the tide. The calm confidence he once exuded morphed into something darker, wild. "You don't have any power here." But the man's glowing eyes never wavered. "You underestimate the consequences of your actions, Richard. You've played a dangerous game." Maya stepped back, trembling. "What do you mean?" It was all unraveling. The shock tethered Daniel to the floor, dread heavy in the air. "I am the one who guided your mother," the stranger declared. "She was my apprentice, and Lucas, he carries her legacy." All eyes focused on Maya, a mixture of horror and revelation flooding her features. "What? My mother? She's gone. What legacy?" The stranger raised a hand, pointing toward the diary still held tightly in Richard's grasp. "The truth lies within those pages. It's not just family secrets. It's about powers beyond comprehension." Richard snarled, "Keep your lies away from us. You have no claim here." But the stranger's gaze hardened. "She carries the same bloodline as those who can shift reality. You, all of you, are connected to something ancient." The crowd collectively gasped, whispers swirling through the room like a wind sweeping through autumn leaves. Daniel felt the world tilt on its axis. "Maya," he said softly, looking at her, desperate for guidance. "What's happening?" But before she could reply, Richard lunged forward, eyes wild with desperation. In one fluid motion, He thrust the diary towards the light, a stark challenge. "Let the truth be revealed," he yelled. In that moment, the walls trembled, the air cracked, and a deafening silence fell. Out of the diary, a violent wind erupted, scattering papers like leaves in a storm. The lights flickered violently, and the very ground beneath them rattled. "Daniel!" Maya's scream shattered his daze, and instinctively he reached for her. But the strange energy surged again, enveloping them all. Then, in the chaos, another truth unfolded. The stranger, the one who had claimed knowledge, suddenly shifted, revealing a cascade of memories. Faces flashed before Daniel's eyes. Maya, as a child, laughter echoing, his mother standing protectively beside a young version of this stranger. "Does this look familiar?" the figure asked, now revealing a face that bore striking similarities to Maya, creating a shocking reflection. "You are my daughter, Maya." Time stopped. The truth hit like a runaway train. What? Daniel's breath hitched, everything swirling around him. "Maya, can it be?" The room exploded with gasps of disbelief. Relationships blurred, reality warped, and Daniel felt the tightness in his chest. All he knew was shattering. Everything he believed seemed a mere illusion. As Maya's expression morphed from confusion to horror, she looked trapped between two worlds. "What are you saying?" she finally stammered, voice trembling against the tempest swirling in the room. And with a sudden flash of chaotic energy, the scene changed again, leaving behind more questions than answers. What was the truth behind the legacy? Who truly wielded the power? And as uncertainty reigned, Daniel stood at the brink, knowing that revelations awaited, threatening to bury them all in their wake. The light pulsed around them, and Daniel felt the tremor of the moment ripple through his body. Everything he thought he understood swirled into a dizzying haze. Just when he thought he could grasp the truth, it slipped through his fingers like sand. "Maya, is this true?" His voice was barely a whisper, strained as he tried to process this shocking revelation. But her face twisted with a mix of disbelief and fear. "Yes, but," she stammered, struggling to find her voice as the room hung in an eerie silence. "What does this mean?" "Everything you've known is a lie," the stranger replied, his voice a smooth murmur that filled the growing tension. "Your mother hid the truth from you, to protect you from those who would harm you for your legacy." Suddenly, the lights flickered violently again, and Daniel felt a pulse in the air, as if reality itself was bending. Shadows danced around them, and the drums of chaos surged once more. Just then, a deafening crash tore through the room. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath hanging heavy in their lungs. Everything erupted into chaos. "Maya!" Daniel called, panic clawing at him as he shielded her and Lucas with his body. I can't breathe," Maya choked out, fear gripping her throat. But Daniel couldn't move. The chaotic scene before him blurred into a threatening haze, and amidst it all, he caught a glimpse of Richard, struggling against the surging darkness. "Get out, now! It's not safe!" Richard shouted. his voice sinking into the chaos. But Daniel didn't hear the words. The rush of adrenaline drowned out everything else. The mysterious man staggered, his facade splintering. "This wasn't supposed to happen," he yelled, eyes darting wildly, as if searching for something or someone. Before Daniel could comprehend, the essence of the storm shifted. Time thickened, almost stopping completely. The crowd surged, shouting, pushing. Faces twisted in fear, flashes of panic erupting around them. Then, another crash, this one far louder. A figure burst through the entrance. A wild-eyed woman with long, dark hair, wearing torn clothes, and a look of pure determination. "Maya!" she cried, eyes locking onto the child in Maya's arms. Daniel felt his breath catch. It was Maya's sister, the one he'd only heard about in whispers, the one fought to be lost forever. "Lila!" Maya gasped, confusion washing over her. "I'm here. You have to trust me." Lila reached out, her hands trembling as she approached. "They're coming for Lucas and Richard. He's one of them." "What? No, he can't be!" Maya shouted, shaking her head in disbelief. As if in response, Richard's face paled, revealing a glint of something darker. "You don't understand, Maya. The truth means nothing if it destroys you." Through the fog of shock, Daniel felt the ground beneath him tremble again. But this time, it felt different. More alive, more ominous. And then it happened. A scream sliced through the air. A high-pitched wail of terror that seemed to come from deep in the hospital, echoing off the walls like a haunting siren. Everyone froze. The fear coiling in Daniel's gut tightened painfully. "Lucas!" Maya shouted, feeling the storm of chaos loom larger, ready to swallow them whole. "We have to go, now!" But something in Lila's eyes shifted. Panic flooded them as she stepped back, breathing heavily. "No, stop!" she screamed, pointing toward the entrance. "You have to listen to me. The diary, it's cursed." All eyes turned toward her in disbelief. "Cursed?" Daniel repeated, feeling the weight of the words crush against his chest. Everything he believed about this moment, the truth, the revelations, crumbling with each haunting echo. "Everything is connected," Lila said, desperate. "Your family is involved in something far worse than you can imagine. The power in that diary binds us all. If it falls into the wrong hands, everything we know will be erased." Daniel looked to Maya, her expression morphing from fear to determination. "What do we do?" But then the ground shook violently beneath them, and a crack formed in the center of the room, sending everyone stumbling. Daniel yelled, grasping her arm as the void threatened to swallow them. And in that moment, Lucas turned to his mother, eyes wide with innocent fear. "Mommy, I don't want to lose you," he cried. That singular moment froze everything. The room grew silent, a collective gasp tearing through the crowd, hearts on the brink of shattering. As the walls quaked and the atmosphere shifted, Daniel saw the truth shimmer in Lila's eyes. She knew more than she let on, a shadow lurking beneath her desperate words. "Who are you really?" he shouted, needing to slice through the chaos, needing answers. But in that instant, as the room threatened to collapse, Lila's expression transformed, revealing a deeper shock. I didn't want you to find out this way. There's a reason I haven't been around. I'm not just your aunt. The ground shook harder, and reality itself teetered. Maya, they're coming! A threat hung heavy in the air, and Daniel realized, with a sudden, sickening clarity, that the fabric of their lives was about to be torn apart. What lay within those cursed pages? And what secrets did Lila truly carry? The truth was a tempest, ready to explode. In that moment, Daniel knew nothing would ever be the same again. Maya's heart raced, the room pulsing with anxiety. "What do you mean, Lila?" she pleaded, trembling as she cradled Lucas. The truth felt like a storm, threatening to wash away everything they held dear. "Listen!" Lila's voice broke through the chaos, desperate and urgent. "Your mother hid the diary for a reason. It holds the key to stopping them." She glanced at Richard, fear creeping into her expression. "He's been manipulating everything. We have to act now before it's too late." Daniel felt the weight of her words. The air around them grew thicker, the chaos pressing in like a tangible force. But Lucas whimpered, pulling at Maya's shirt, innocent and terrified. "Mommy, what's happening?" Maya knelt and wrapped her arms around him, her voice a whisper. "It's okay, baby. We're going to get through this." But her eyes darted back to Lila, searching for answers, searching for hope. The stranger, the one whose identity was now tangled with their past, stepped closer to Maya. "You have the power to change everything. You must trust your instincts and each other." Suddenly, the ground shook, throwing everyone off balance. A collective gasp echoed through the room as the ceiling beams creaked ominously. Shadows flickered, spiraling around them like a tempest, ready to tear apart the seams of their reality. "Now," Daniel shouted, rooting himself to the ground in an effort to keep them steady. "We need to get to safety." But Richard lunged forward, a wild look glimmering in his eyes. "You can't escape the truth." His hand shot out, clutching the diary tightly. With all the strength he could muster, Daniel dashed forward, the world around him a blur. "No!" he yelled as he tackled Richard. The diary flew from his hands, and for a moment, time slowed. It landed in a flutter of pages, the secrets it held now exposed. Then, with a sudden surge of energy, the space around them vibrated. The diary opened, pages flipping wildly. Words glowed brightly, arcing through the air, illuminating faces with a binding light. "Maya!" Daniel shouted. "You have to read it! Now!" Taking a deep breath, Maya stepped forward, Lucas still in her arms, and began to read aloud. Each word felt weighty, like thunder rolling through the room. And suddenly, silence fell, a stillness that wrapped around them like a comforting embrace. The world seemed to hold its breath, the chaos fading into the background. The diary revealed the truth about their family's past, about powers, legacies, and love that intertwined through generations. Maya's voice was steady as she read, the light growing brighter with each revelation. Lila stood beside her, a proud smile breaking through the tension. Daniel felt hope kindling in his chest, the weight of fear lifting, even as shadows swirled in the corners of the room. "Lucas, you're part of something incredible," Maya finished, looking down at her son, her eyes sparkling with newfound resolve. Then it all began to ripple. The walls glowed, wrapping them in warmth, pushing out the darkness. Memory after memory flooded in, intertwining them in a tapestry of connection and strength. The storm, the chaos, became a gentle breeze. He gasped, watching the light envelop them. But Daniel stood tall beside Maya. "We broke the cycle. We chose love over fear. You can't control us." And with one last surge, the light expanded, enveloping Richard, and in a flash he faded away, a whisper of what was left behind. Moments later, they found themselves outside, the sun shining bright above, warm and welcoming. The shadows of the hospital shrank back, revealing blue skies and endless possibility. Maya looked around, tears of relief mingling with joy. "We did it," she murmured, pulling Lucas close, feeling his heartbeat match her own. "But what comes next?" Daniel asked, glancing at Lila. "What about the legacy?" A flicker of a smile crossed Lila's lips. "Together, we forge a new path. The diary showed us the past, but it also holds the promise of a brighter future." As they gathered together, hope swirled among them, shimmering like the light from the diary, promising new connections, new beginnings. But just as a sense of peace unfolded, a distant roar echoed from the horizon, reminding them that their journey was far from finished. They were bound together, family tied by more than blood, a force determined to rise above. And the adventure wasn't over. You must subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Click the like button to feed the algorithm and keep us going. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling ending. And don't wait another second. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to know how it all ends. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting this channel. Join